And minority in parliament partly supports the $1 billion loan facility whilst demanding a renegotiation of the $250 million component, more as government races against time not to default on payment of its interest on debt. We'll bring you details here on Joy News Prime as government intends to use and tell you what government intends to use the money for, plus the calls by the majority for partisanship interest to be abandoned. Also coming up here on Joy News Prime, minority in parliament allege unfair treatment against Ghanaians in government fight against galamsey after military allegedly arrested and tortured some galamseyers on Anglo Gold Ashanti's concession.
Even as they do this, they have turned a blind eye to foreigners. Whilst they are chasing Ghanaians, pursuing Ghanaians, and brutalizing the ordinary Ghanaian, foreigners are always being treated with kid gloves.
Also, growing calls for overhaul of Ghana's ambulance system following revelations from the public probe into circumstances leading to the death of a pregnant woman who died in transit from Takoradi to Accra.
Was in blood, lying, and then what they tell us is we should pay before.
Deep in the night, I was feeling unwell. I called the ambulance service, and then what they told me was that, hey, I better pick a taxi and find myself into a hospital.
And these things have to be dealt with. It is unbecoming.
Some listeners who called into the Super Morning Show shared harrowing experiences with the service. We'll bring that to you. Family of Atamils furious at government for allowing an NGO run by Kojo Manu to tamper with the grave of the former president.
How somebody like Kojo Manu, that buffoon, working with Atamils Institute, so-called, to go and touch this grave without informing our family head. This is a former president. Why would the government allow this to happen?
We have details as they allege that the tomb has been removed from the grave. We have details here on Joy News Prime.
Why would you go and touch somebody's grave without informing the family? Now the question I want to ask is this. Now that you've gone to touch it, is the body still in that grave?
Hello again, thanks for choosing us. My name is Ernest Manu. The minority in parliament has partly supported government's push for a $1 million loan facility whilst demanding a renegotiation of the $250 million component. The majority side will be pushing through, is hoping that they'll push through this deal of the $1 million facility, believed to be critical in bringing some immediate relief to the current economic challenges. Earlier, key NDC members, including the 2020 flag bearer of the NDC, John Mahama, had insisted the loan should not be approved.
This government has collateralized almost all revenue streams and is seeking to collateralize more, including our gold royalties, under the dubious Ejapa deal. In view of the above, we in the NDC cannot lend support to the $1 billion syndicated loan agreement, and our MPs are poised to oppose and vote against it in Parliament. We wish to serve notice going forward that the NDC in Parliament will not support any further non-concessionary borrowing or loans that are not project-specific with clear and unambiguous terms of the benefit to our nation. We will not partake in the destruction of the Ghanaian economy, which this government appears so bent on doing.
But now we are learning that the Finance Committee has recommended the approval of the 750 component of the loan with the blessing of the minority, whilst asking for a renegotiation of the 250 million component. But what exactly are the monies for? To help us break the figures down, Isaac Kofi, data analyst with the research text, joins me in the studio. Kofi, tell us about the two different sums and what exactly government is seeking to do with the money.
Right, so this is the name that's ringing in everyone's mind, non-concessional loan. This is a loan which means they're going to get a loan at the market interest rate. You're not going to get long-term grace period. And this is what Ghana is going in for after being kicked out of the Eurobond market. And so this is the amount we are expecting, $2 billion. But because of the dire situation we find ourselves in, we are actually fast-tracking the 1 billion tranche of these 2 billion cedis that we are talking about. And this $1 billion, dollars is what we are breaking down into 750 and then the 250 that the minority is actually, talking about.
Okay.
Now, if you break this down, the 750 component is coming from the African Export-Import, Bank, and this is the 750 component, while the 250 million component is coming from a joint mandated lead arrangement and book runners, which we call the MLABs. This is actually the syndicated part of the 1 billion loan that we are talking about. Why is it syndicated? Because this 250 million is coming from 3 banks. 3 banks have actually come together to say that, we can give Ghana a loan amount of 250 million. But why is the minority giving their blessing to the 750 by rejecting the 250? Because they believe that this $250 million loan is coming with a 10% premium or insurance that Ghana would have to pay, with somewhere around $43 million on just this, $250 million. But if we were not, going to get this syndicated loan, what is the genesis of this whole problem, Ernest? And this is from the difference we are getting from our expenditure and our revenue, which is our deficit. So over the years, from 2012 to 2020, you can see the huge difference between how much we are spending in blue and then how much we are actually, breaking in as revenue in yellow. So this year, for instance, we want to spend an amount of 370.5, billion Ghana cedis, and then
that's 137.5
billion Ghana cedis as expenditure, and we are just expecting 100.5 billion Ghana cedis as revenue. Now, if you do the math, this will give you some 37 billion as what we call the deficit. And you ask yourself, how is government going to fund this deficit? So assuming government is able to get the 2 billion from the syndicated loan and the other one, and is able to get 2 billion from IMF, if that will be around $4 billion. If you convert this to cedis, that will be around 32 billion Ghana cedis. That 32 billion cedis can give some offset to these 37 billion cedis that we are talking about. But usually this has been the picture. When we have deficit, we run to the Eurobond market. And it's not news. All governments have been to the Eurobond market. So if you take Mahama, for instance, he did 4 trips to the Eurobond market. First in 2013, where he gained 1 billion cedis. Second was in 2014, where the same 1 billion cedis, 1 billion cedis, and 16, where he had 750 million. $750 million. Sorry, dollars we are talking about here. Just like what the minorities have given their blessing to. And the total is $3.75 billion under President Mahama from 2013 to 2016. Now, if you take President Akufo-Addo, he's also made the same 4 trips to the Eurobond market. First, he gained $2 billion. Second, $3 billion. Third, $3 billion. And the last one was in 2021, where we borrowed $3.025 billion from the Eurobond market. And within this 4-year period, that's some $11 billion that we are talking about. So, Ernest, you can see that we being shut out of the Eurobond markets is actually really affecting our economy, because this is where we actually go to get monies to fund our deficit. And this year, we are looking at a deficit close to 40 billion Ghana cedis, and we're actually gathering money from all angles for us to be able to, cater for this deficit that I'm talking about.
And government has said a bit of this will go into infrastructure, capital expenditure. But the minority is demanding for some more detail as far as this is concerned. And especially on the 250, they believe that what we are paying for insurance is way too much.
10%, which is somewhere around, 43 million Ghana cedis. You can't get 250 million cedis and pay an insurance package of 43 million. That's on us.
That's huge. Kofi, thank you very much for always helping us understand these issues. But let's stay in Parliament and remain with the minority, because they are alleging that government's fight against illegal mining is disproportionately discriminating against Ghanaian citizens. According to the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, John Jinapor, some galamsey operators who are arrested on a concession belonging to Anglo Gold Ashanti were tortured and brutalized without having been taken through due legal process.
Reports on the treatment meted out to suspected illegal miners who were arrested on the premises of Anglo Gold Ashanti, a mining company in Obuasi, by military officers. We are well informed that on the 15th of July, the military arrested some suspected illegal miners on the Anglo Gold field and subjected them to torture, inhumane treatment, abuse of their human rights, amongst others. The minority find this development most unfortunate, disturbing, and we strongly condemn the use of brute, excessive, and disproportionate force in the so-called fight against illegal mining. This flagrant disregard of our laws and constitution under the Akufo-Addo-led government is most unfortunate and must be roundly condemned in the strongest terms possible. We find this incident despicable. We find this incident unfortunate. And we find this incident highly reprehensible. Even more disturbing is the fact that the Akufo-Addo-led government has remained mute following this incident. This is a heinous crime meted out to ordinary Ghanaians. You and I would agree that the level of unemployment is at an all-time high. And so even as we claim that we are fighting against illegal mining, it ought to be done in accordance with law. We would not countenance any attempt by this government using military force to brutalize, maltreat, and subject ordinary Ghanaians to inhumane treatment.
Now, according to John Jinapor, government is treating foreigners who are destroying the country's water bodies with kid gloves. They are also demanding an independent probe into the alleged torture.
Even as they do this, they have turned a blind eye to foreigners. Whilst they are chasing Ghanaians, pursuing Ghanaians, and brutalizing the ordinary Ghanaian, foreigners are always being treated with kid gloves. And in some instances, the law is compromised to favor these foreigners when they fall foul within the laws as far as the mining sector is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, you will recall the infamous incident involving a Chinese galamsey queen known as Aisha Wang. Following her arrest for her involvement in illegal mining, rather than prosecuting her to serve as a deterrent to others, the state unilaterally and surprisingly discontinued the case in court on a very flimsy and baseless excuse, as was said by Mr. Osafo-Maafo. The Ghana stood to have economic gains.
Now, John News earlier cited footage pointing to possible military brutality of some Ghanaians believed to be engaged in illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey. Watch this. The minority says this is an indication that government's fight against galamsey is discriminatory against Ghanaians. Let's move on and do some other stories now. There are growing calls for an overhaul of the operations of the ambulance service following revelations from the public probe of circumstances leading to the death of a pregnant woman in January. The 30-year-old mother, Augustina Awotwe, lost her life allegedly due to delays on the part of the ambulance crew transporting her to Accra. Whilst answering questions before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee investigating the issue, CEO of the ambulance service, Professor Ahmed Nuhu Zakaria, admitted his officers demanded 600 cedis from husband of the deceased, but he challenges claims the delay resulted in the death of the pregnant woman.
This was a lady who from day one was in some form of shock. Obviously, it will have started with neurogenic shock. And whatever the case, it could have moved into cardiogenic shock. And when they got to Commander Junction and they realized that the patient's condition was deteriorating, they had to branch to Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. There, obviously, the challenge they had was because they hadn't called before coming, definitely the hospital was not ready to accept the patient. So they had to spend some time trying to negotiate acceptance of this particular case. Eventually, in the course, the woman's condition got worse. She deteriorated and went into cardiorespiratory arrest. And some resuscitation was done, but obviously unsuccessful. And the woman eventually passed on. So from the narration we had, from the investigations were part of, this were the chronology of events that led to the death of the patient.
Now, this development has outraged many members of the public who are calling for an overhaul of the ambulance system. Some of them called into the Super Morning Show and shared harrowing experiences with the service.
I remember one time there was an accident and they called the ambulance service. When they came, the person was in blood, lying, and then what they tell us is we should pay before. Kojo, I got hold of myself. I will have thrown blow. We called you, you had the petrol to come, but I don't have the petrol to pick the person to the hospital. That was very terrible. In fact,
so what happened? What did you do?
We got motorbike. This same motorbike, they say it is no good. We got a motorbike and then we picked the person to the hospital.
Back on campus, University of Ghana, I mean, deep in the night, I was feeling unwell. So what I did was that I called the ambulance service. And then what they told me was that, hey, I better pick a taxi and find myself into a hospital. Oh, really?
That's what the ambulance service told you?
Yes. And look, because it was just about 1 a.m. So what I did eventually was that I had to struggle and then get out of the hall. And thankfully, some of the boys had gone to the nightclub, they went partying, and they had returned in an Uber. And then that saved me. So that's how terrible the situation is.
Yes, I'm a health worker, and where I work from, before we refer a case from our facility to maybe a teaching hospital, we charge 100 cedi from the ambulance services. And the most sad thing about it is that it's not only the ambulance services that delay the services. Even the referring center, maybe Kolebu will tell you there's no bed. And then you get there and there's bed. They will delay you. Sometimes you'll be referring cases and you spend more than 3 hours. And these things have to be dealt with because it is unbecoming.
Okay. Yes, I have a personal experience. Last year, August, for lack of oxygen in the ambulance, I lost my mom. I lost my mom.
On the 12th of June, my brother had an accident, and then the case was very bad. So when we rushed into the Damango Teaching Hospital, they told us to buy fuel so that they could move him from the hospital there to the teaching hospital. So I had to contact my uncle, Mr. Gerard, before we could raise that money because at that instance we didn't have that money on us. But unfortunately, when they took him there, he passed away.
So those are the experiences of some people who called into the Super Morning Show. Let's go into the phone lines now and speak to Kwabena Mintah Kando. He's the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament. Thank you very much for your time here on Joy News Prime. First of all, I understand the public probe has ended. What is your assessment of that session?
Okay, so let me say good evening to your listeners. And to start with, I indicated to your producer who called me that I had constraints discussing and assessing the report so far because I'm the vice chair of that particular committee, and we have not submitted our report to the House. It has not been debated, and so it will not be proper for me to start debating the report of the committee in public before it is filed on the floor of the House. But what I can tell you is that, yes, the husband of the disease appeared before us. The CHAG, Christian Health Association of Ghana, also appeared before us because the facility in question, which is the Holy Child Hospital in Tijai, that facility is for CHAG. So
if you can kindly speak up for us, we seem to be losing you along the line.
Can you hear me?
Yes, this is much better. Thank you.
Okay, so what I said was that in all the institutions and individuals who were concerned as far as this issue is concerned have appeared before the committee, and I was trying to list them, and I said the husband of the disease has appeared before the committee, and then the CHAG, which is the Christian Health Association of Ghana, they've also appeared. The facility in question, which is the Holy Child Hospital, have also appeared. Ghana Health Service have appeared before the committee. The ministry, they've also appeared before the committee. And so we are almost done. We are more than 90% through. But the conversation will be enriched and to be very interesting if we had, filed our report, debated, and then we started a discussion on it. But I can tell you that the ultimate aim is to bring the report and recommendations and findings that will help us as a country to prevent the reoccurrence of such a situation.
So when can we expect that report to be laid before Parliament?
Well, I am very sure that by the end of next week, we'll be able to lay our report, but we are not the people to determine whether or not the report will be taken on the first day or second day. It will be determined by the business committee of the House, but I'm sure that we will finish our report by next week.
Well, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much. That's Kwabena Mintah Kando. He is the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament. Now, the Ghana Health Service is scaling up its surveillance on the deadly Marburg virus with an advanced awareness campaign across the country. Ghana's response to the virus has been threatened due to the lack of information over the disease. Marburg has claimed 2 lives already, with about 98 people placed under strict surveillance by the Ghana Health Service. Although 31 have been discharged after clearance by the authorities, many more people across the country have close to no knowledge about the virus. Listen to some of them who spoke to Joy News.
Yes, so this 98, it was only one that showed some symptoms about a week ago. We sent samples to the lab and it's negative. So far, none of the 98 has showed any symptoms.
That is the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Esiedu-Bequin, providing details of the 2 confirmed cases of Marburg virus in Ghana. The 2 who died from the disease are said to have had no recent travel history, a situation which put health authorities on high alert. Dr. Anthony Siasari is Presidential Advisor on Health.
We've also seen cases, at least 2 cases that we suspected Marburg virus disease. Marburg virus disease is one of the hemorrhagic viral hemorrhagic diseases. You get headache, fever, feel like you have diarrhea, passing bloody stools, bleeding from all sorts of places. The fatality is very high. That's why the first 2 who were suspected, they all died within 24 hours.
31 out of a total of 98 contacts of the 2 cases who were put under strict surveillance have been discharged with more efforts channeled towards unraveling the source of the disease in the country.
They were tested positive. We took the samples. Noguchi can test it. Noguchi tested it. We've also sent it to Pasteur Institute for confirmation. And that's how one of them has come out to be confirmed. The other one is 50-50, but Noguchi said it was suspected positive case. So we take it as positive cases. Our district team, the regional team, the national team are all there. of support from WHO to make sure that we follow every contact of them.
Already, the Ghana Medical Association is recommending a return to the safety protocols introduced at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Titus Bayo is General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association.
Based on the actions taken by the Ghana Health Service so far, I think I have confidence that the situation will be contained and we are not going to die. But we should be aware that this is a disease that has a very high fatality. And COVID doesn't come anywhere close to this. In fact, a colleague joked that this is a senior brother of Ebola. We never saw Ebola in Ghana, but we saw the devastation Ebola caused in other countries. So containment, prevention of spread is what we need to do. And for us, the general public, it's not for us to be alarmed and scared, but be vigilant.
But what do people actually know about the virus?
Well, I don't have any idea about the virus you are talking about. But then I think if it is here, then there has to be a need of educating people about it as well.
Yeah, I'm very much aware about the new virus that is fast spreading all over. And it's a caution to everyone to be careful.
Well, I just heard it, in the news that it's killing people. But it is a task for the government to make sure that, we take this announcement serious.
Virologist at the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research, Dr. Michael Owusu, wants an emergency awareness campaign.
For many who have come into contact with these patients, they are under observation, they are being monitored with the hope to see if any of them will manifest the signs and symptoms. If not, then of course it means that we are doing well. But then in case you have some of these experiences, then we have to raise the alert and see how best to deal with them. But the aspect of education is what is a bit on the low side because we know bushmeat animals are one of the major reservoirs of this virus. So at this level, we need a lot of education for people to understand that we are dealing with something more different than COVID. And therefore, those who are highly dependent on bushmeat and handling dead animals or processing meats for food or restaurant have to be very, very vigilant. If possible, reduce or put a brakes on some of this. I think that having some more education, especially in the local language, at these communities would be very helpful to possibly reduce further transmission in case you have the reservoirs still circulating in the community.
The Ghana Health Service says it is expanding its sensitization drive to increase awareness on the virus. Dr. Da Costa Boaje is head of health promotions at the service.
The national level, we are also planning. Obviously, we do have our emergency operations center. We have, as we stand now, we have our risk communication plan, which we have developed some materials, but we go through a lot of approvals before it comes out. So we are working on that. Once we finish, we believe that we will mount a comprehensive education on the virus. Yes, it is new in Ghana, as COVID was new. So I think as we go along, you'll see a more robust public education.
But this is emerging, and I don't think we have so much time on our hands. How soon are you going to roll this out?
I don't think it will take time. That's what I told you. So the most important steps have actually been taken. So the first thing is, like when you detect such cases, you do contact tracing. Contact tracing has actually been done. Now, what I'm just trying to assure the public is that we are decentralized service and our regions have actually taken charge. And we from the national, we are supporting them. But I know that we are putting a more comprehensive nationwide education. So very soon you will see that happening.
Let's talk about roads now. Artisans and spare part dealers at Swami Magazine could soon heave a sigh of relief as contractors working on the Swami roundabout Afrancho Road work round the clock to complete rehabilitation works. Officials of Johob's Construction say at least 1.5 kilometers of asphalt overlay will be completed this Friday. Ohiminteria reports.
The deplorable Swami roundabout Afrancho stretch of the main Kumasi-Techiman Road has been subject of series of street protests by artisans and spare parts dealers at Swami Magazine. Angry artisans protesting over delays in fixing the pothole-riddled road attacked the Member of Parliament for the area and Majority Leader, Ose Chairman Sabuzo, who was meeting leadership of the artisans. What appeared a reactionary visit by the Member of Parliament for Swami to the concerns of his constituents over the tribal rules turned hostile. The angry artisans pelted the MP's entourage with sachet water and other items until a police team, led by the Ashanti Regional Police Commander, whisked the MP away in a police vehicle. The road contractors, Joshua Construction Limited, who abandoned the site over acute shortage of bitumen, have since returned to site, promising to complete an asphalt overlay on at least 1.5 kilometers of the stretch this Friday. Moses Nakoli is an asphalt foreman at the shop constructions.
We want to see the portals from the beginning. So tomorrow we'll spray the asphalt. So the asphalt will start on Friday morning. That's why we are here. We are going to lay the asphalt because after we do we cover the portals finish. When the portal finish, we need to sweep, we brush, then we spray the bitumen first layer, so that the following day, because here is asphalt layer. So now we receive the bitumen.
Officials of your shop construction are promising to work around the clock in what they describe as progressive construction timetable.
You should have patience, because some are my fathers, some are my brothers. Then what is going on, it's not the problem for the MP, it's problem for the contractor. The bitumen, like we have everything, that problem shouldn't come. So they should have patience, everything will be okay.
This perhaps will come as a relief to artisans and traders of Swami Magazine, who until now were faced with dusty roads. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Waime Teria reporting.
Yeah, my name is Ernest Kojo with Joy News Prime. Still to come, family of Atamils furious at government for allowing an NGO run by Koko Anyidoho to tamper with the grave of the former president.
And someone like Koko Anyidoho, that buffoon, working with Atamils Institute, so-called, to go and touch this grave without informing our family head. This is a former president. Why would the government...
Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Now, brother of former President John Evans Atamils is furious with government for allowing the Atamils Institute to tamper with the grave of the former president. The NGO run by Koko Anyidoho says they are rehabilitating the Asundre Park, which has the mortal remains of the former president. According to the brother of the former president, Samuel Atamils, who is also MP for the KEEA constituency, it goes against all customs to allow the NGO make changes to the grave without recourse to the family.
This is an insult to the family. This is an insult to we the accounts. This is an insult to the nation. My goodness. Now, the government allows an NGO to run Asumdwe Park. The government allows an NGO with Coastal Development Authority to handle the remains of President John Evans Atamils. Why don't we send another NGO to go and run Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum? Now, let me tell you, President Atamils is not the only president who has passed away in Ghana. Other presidents have passed away. Get ready. Other NGOs are going to run your graves. You, the presidents. Those former and those living right now. NGOs are going to run your graves. Now, it's a very serious thing. I try not to talk too much about it, but the government has to provide the body of President John Evans Atamils. We want to find out where the body is. What have you done with it? What kind of rituals did you perform over there? Now, when cases start coming after you, don't blame anybody. Is national security aware of this nonsense going on? Is national security aware of this nonsense going on? Who in the government is authorizing this nonsense? IGP Dampari, you were the ADC of President John Evans Atta Mills. If somebody goes to Osu Cemetery to desecrate a grave, wouldn't you go and arrest that person? You sit down and a former president's grave, somebody goes to destroy it. This is a disgrace.
The furious brother of the former president is calling on government to immediately stop the conduct of Kojo Manu because he is desecrating the resting place of John Evans Atta Mills. Now, a youth and sports minister, a former youth and sports minister, Lampley van der Poel, who together with some MPs visited the grave today, said he is sad about the situation, showing pictures of the grave with its tomb removed.
Look like us at today when we visited the place. I've been sad, I've cried since morning. You could see from my eyes. Because renovating the place do not call for this desecration. And you can't do anything like that without informing and notifying the family. Because our customs and tradition as Ghanaians demands that if you are doing such a thing, a family member must be present. I've asked Sami, who just talked, we've asked Cadman, we've asked the family. No member of the family was informed of such level of desecration and disrespect to the grave of the man who made all of us. I'm sad. I'm really sad.
And that's it for our Living Standard series. We have more on our social media handles. And family of 17-year-old Angela Lampley is seeking for justice for the young girl who was murdered under strange circumstances. Now, according to accounts from the family, the deceased, a final year student who was preparing to sit her basic certificate examination, stepped out one morning and never returned until she was spotted lifeless in a nearby forest. For now, the police service is holding onto the corpse as final autopsy has been carried out to unravel the cause of the death. Uncle of the deceased says although the family is sad, they will take consolation if justice is served by arresting the perpetrators. Viewers are warned some of the visuals are disturbing.
The person, which is Angela, was Friday evening. We find out that Angela was lying down at an area in Botiano called Solo Forest with a blood oozing from the body and a cut on her head. But she was carried by some area guys to the hospital. And after we followed them to the hospital, she was pronounced dead. So that's what happened. She's not with us, she's with the mom. So she just closed from school. According to the mom, she just closed from school. And after changing herself, she went out from the house. But to see her was when she was lying down with the blood on the body, being choked at the chest and a cut on the head. She was found around 7 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. at an area in Botiano called Solo Forest.
4 people are still on admission at the Tamale Teaching Hospital following injuries they sustained in Tuesday accident involving Itmandai Metro Mars bus. 26 sustained injuries and were rushed to the Tamale Teaching Hospital for treatment, but 10 were immediately treated and discharged, whilst 12 more have been discharged. Joy News Northern Region correspondent Martina Bugu reports.
The accident, Joy News gathered, happened this morning at Parkori in the Miao district of the Northern Region. The Tamale-bound bus had 67 passengers, including 2 children. Even though it is not known what caused the accidents, some of the passengers have been accusing the driver of sleeping.
The people they are impressing now, we shouldn't say, would they want us to speak in favor of the driver? Even when the thing happened and the driver got out of the car, he was crying that he has black cow. He's not watching the people that, he's not caring about the people that was inside the car. He ran away and was crying. My plastic cow. What of the people inside the car? You see, so I was at the back. I guess almost everybody in the car was asleep. So the driver, he went this side. Like, he was coming this side. So it happened like when you are dozing, you do like this. You know? So when the thing went this way, I stood up and I saw that the driver did like this, like he was dozing. So I shouted that they should check. It's like the driver is asleep. Have you seen? So the guy, you saw the guy who wounded his legs. You know? So the guy stood up and the car, so his hand turned the thing and the thing go to the other side. When the car went this way, he wanted to control the car to this side and control the thing because he was asleep.
That's our show for tonight. Many thanks for your company. Please log on to myjohnline.com. You'll find more stories there.